All right, everybody, welcome back. Just want to start by saying excuse the glare from my light. It's like 4:10 in the morning, so I have to have this light on, so we're just going to have to deal. So today's episode, I want to take care of two things. The first thing I want to do is spawn loot when an enemy dies, right? So we're already gaining experience, we're all going to level up, but the whole point of an RPG is to kill stuff and get loot, right? And we're going to start with that. And then once we spawn the loot, the second thing I want to do is, if the loot is equipment, I want to, when you hover your mouse over the spawned loot, I want everybody to be able to see the exact same loot. In World of Warcraft and other RPG, really in WoW, essentially, when a loot item drops from a raid, everybody gets notified of it. And everybody looks at the exact same item and they all roll for it, right? They all discuss, they look at the stats, and then they all discuss who should roll for it, and then they roll for it. Well, we're just going to start off with the point of everybody should be able to look at the same item and see the exact same stats. So in order to do that, we need to not roll the stats on the player's inventory. We made the inventory an actor component, so we're going to give it to the enemy, and we're going to let the enemy handle the rest of it. So the first thing I want to do is come into the character, and in the enemy base, I will come down under the attributes and make a T object pointer to a U inventory component that will forward declare. And I'll call it inventory comp. Give it a U property, and we are going to say visible visible anywhere, and then that means I need a meta of allow private access to true. We'll do that. And in the constructor, we'll take this and we'll say inventory comp equals create default sub object of a U inventory component that we'll just call inventory comp. And we're not going to replicate this because it's AI, and it's enemy AI, and everything is only handled on the server. We don't need to replicate this inventory component for them at all. And then we're going to write a function in here in the private section, and it's just going to call void spawn loot, just like this. And we will show context actions, and I'm going to bring this function up here again so I can actually type on screen instead of my camera doing that. And what we're going to do is on the death before I destroy, we're going to call spawn loot right here just before we destroy it. Now, first thing was, where did spawn loot go? Oh, it's right here, excuse me. So we're gonna check the inventory comp just first. And then we're gonna want another data asset because we're gonna want this data driven, right? We wanna do this data driven. So we're gonna make inside the data, we're gonna add an Unreal class of a U data asset right here. And we are going to call this loot spawn info, and we're gonna say okay. And then the only thing we need to do in here is kind of like the item information. We'll make a public section, make a tmap of f gameplay tag, which we have to include, and then we'll make it to t object pointer to a u data table, and then this will be tagged loot tables. And we'll give a U property of edit defaults only. So I have this loot spawn info that's just tags to tables. And then, so in the enemy base, I'm also going to want a T object pointer to a U loot spawn info that will forward declare. And this will be a loot spawn info. And give this a U property of edit defaults only, and category is custom values, loot. We'll go like that. Then we're going to want two gameplay tag containers. Oh, excuse me. Looks like I got a new driver for my graphics card. So we're going to want two gameplay tag containers. So we're going to say f gameplay tag container. And the first one is going to be called loot category tags. And we'll give this U property, edit defaults only, category is custom values, loot. And then we're going to want another fGameplay tag container that we'll call specific loot tags. And this will be U property, edit defaults only, with a category of custom values, loot. So now that we have all of this set up, we can come in here, we'll run one more check for the loot spawn info to make sure that's valid. And then we're going to start like this. We're going to make a local fGameplay tag container, and we're going to call it all loot tags. And then we're going to make a const uGameplay tags manager, and we're going to do that by reference, and we're going to call it tags manager, and we'll just set that equal to uGameplay tags manager, and it's just got a static get. So when we got the tags manager. And so now that we have that, we're going to loop. We're going to say for const fGameplay tag reference, and this will be category tag. Oops, excuse me, category tag. And we're going to loop through the loot category tags. And we're going to say the all loot tags. We can append tags, and when you append tags, you're taking one gameplay tag container and attaching it to another gameplay tag container. So where we're going to get another gameplay tag container out of this category tag is if we take the tags manager, and we can call request gameplay tag children of the category tag. And then what that's going to do is return us a gameplay tag container. So if this says like item.equipment and you leave it at item.equipment, it'll return us every single item.equipment child tag that exists. So we're going to take the category tags, and we're just going to give all this to the category tags, and then we're going to loop again for const fGameplay tag reference, and this will be specific tag, and we're going to loop through specific loot tags. And then we could just take the all loot tags, and we could just add tag the specific tag. So once we're going to do this, we're going to write a while loop. So we're going to make a Boolean, and this is going to be b should spawn. And we're going to set this equal to true. And then we're going to say while b should spawn, because I want to make sure every time you kill an enemy that it drops a loot. This will guarantee that it drops loot unless you change this loop. But I'm going to write it so that it guarantees to drop. So what I want is while I should spawn, I need to get a random tag out of here, and then I need to pull some loot. So the first thing I want to do is get a random tag out of this container, but if you see, we're in the this is the enemy base. If we're like, let's go to the inventory component real quick. You can see when we're doing some of these other things, we get random tags. Where do we get random tags? Right here. I have this random tag right here, and then I have this random tag right here. And then now I'm going to want this random tag right here. I'm going to want a const of gameplay tag reference called random tag out of that all loot tags. So because I'm doing this all the time, I don't want to keep doing this over and over and over, changing all the names of all this stuff. So what I'm going to do is come to the libraries that we have, and in the ability system library.h, what I'm going to do is make a static function. So make a static fGameplay tag return, and it's going to get random tag from container, and it'll take a const fGameplay tag container reference just called container. And we can make this a U function blueprint pure, so then you can use it inside any blueprint inside the project. And we'll just generate a definition, and it's just going to be those two lines, right? I think you'll be able to see it here. Yeah, I think we should be able to see it just fine. We're going to make a const int 32 called random index. And we'll set that equal to fmath rand range between 0 and the container.num -1, and then we'll just return the container.getByIndex of the random index. We'll just do that. So now what we could do is in the inventory component, we could just delete this line, right here, and then we can just delete this, and we can just use the URPG ability system, get random tag from container, and the container we want is the equipment CDO, has the possible ability roles, just like that. And then now it'll kick us back that, and then this is the possible stat container. So if I do this, then I'll say URPG ability, get random from the possible stat container. Let me just go like that. And then now I have this, and I can say URPG ability system, get random tag from container from the all loot tags. Like that, and now I have a random tag from the all loot tags. And it's just one line. It looks a lot nicer if you could just say, hey, get a random tag from this container, and just give it a container and spit out a tag. It's kind of nice. So then what we're going to do is we're going to for loop, and it'll be const auto pair, because the map we're going to do for the loot spawn info has the tagged loot tables. So then we're going to check if the random tag dot matches tag to the pair dot key, right? We're going to want, we're going to want to pull that data table row by tag. So we need to go back to the item types in the inventory, because we're going to come all the way down to the bottom, and let's see, you should be able to see this good. So we'll make another use struct right here, and once we do this, we'll call this f possible loot params, and this will inherit public from an f table row base. So we can make this like this, and we'll make this blueprint type. And there's going to be just a couple things in here. We're going to make an f gameplay tag, and this is going to be the resulting item tag. And I'm going to show you this little micro optimization. This is literally unnecessary, and I doubt this will ever change anything, but I just think you can learn something and you just know something new. But if you set this equal to f gameplay tag like this and do a default constructor, then you're doing a default constructor right here, which means every time one of these structs is made, the CPU has to spend some cycles to actually construct one of these gameplay tags to actually give it to you. What we could do to save this handful of cycles, which will never be noticeable, but what we can do anyway, just because we're paranoid and we do these things, is there's a static version of an empty tag, and then that requires 0 CPU cycles because it's the static value and it's already built. So now if you want to go back and change your default tags to the empty tag, every time you make these structs now, you'll never have to construct a tag. Anyway, we're going to do this U property, and it'll be edit defaults only, and then, we'll just leave it like that, edit defaults only. And then we're going to want in int32 that we'll call min num items, and we'll set that equal to 1, and give this a U property of edit defaults only. And then we'll make an int32 called max num items, and we'll set this also equal to default 1, because if we do it this way, then as we fill in the rows, the loot that spawns, the default's just going to be 1 item. So you just spawn 1 item. Then if you want to change it to more, you can. And then we also need a float that's going to be the probability to select, and we'll set that equal to 0.f. Give this a U property of edit defaults only. So now I have these data table f possible loot params with all this data in here. I could say if I have this matching tag, then I could say if the const f possible loot params pointer, that'll be possible loot, and we'll set that equal to URPG ability system library, get data table row by tag for an f possible loot params. You can still see this good. And we need the pair.value as the table, and then the random tag is going to be the tag we're looking for. Oof, what a line. So if that matches, then we're going to look for that. And we're going to check now. We're going to roll for to be selected if fmath f rand range between the 0.f and 1.f, just like we do before, is less than the possible loot has the probability to select. So if we do hit that less than we probability select, congratulations, you now get this loot spawn. So we are going to do a const int32 called random num items, and we're going to set that equal to fmath rand range between the possible loot has the min num items and the possible loot has the max num items. And if you just leave them both at 1 and 1, then the random num items will always be 1. So don't even worry about it. Now what I want to do is, now that I have the random number of items and I know what the possible loot is, my thing is I need to take the inventory component and I want to call spawn that item. I have the transform. I could just say get actor transform, and I have that. But I need a pointer to the inventory entry that contains it and the num items. So how are we going to do that? And the best way that we could do that is if we come back to the inventory component, we can take this add item in the inventory list right here, and we can return like the equipment does, right? We can return the FRPG inventory equipment entry pointer like we do in the equipment entry. And we'll take the FRPG inventory entry pointer like that. And then our return is going to give us busted. So we return the address of entry here. And then down here, we don't do anything here. So we'll return the address of new entry right here. So now when we call add item there, it'll return us the result of whatever we just added. So we can say if const frpg inventory entry pointer, and we'll call it results. We can set that equal to the inventory comp has the inventory list that we'll need to call add item instead of the regular one. And the item tag that we're going to add to it is in the possible loot. It's the resulting item tag, and we're going to add the random num items as the number of items. So if that successfully goes through, then I can spawn the item, and I have the pointer, that's the result. And then the number of items is in the result now. It's packed into the result. It's the quantity. So I can spawn that item. And then I'm going to take b should spawn. I'm going to set that equal to false so we can kill the... So we're going to kill the while loop because we spawned our item. And then we have to deal with the loot table loop. So we need to break here now that we spawned the item. So we'll kill the loot table loop, and then we'll kill the while loop. But then we also want to do this if the random tag matches this. That means it found the possible loot. And we want to say if any way along these if checks, if it fails along any way there, then we also want to kill this loot table search. Because if you got 20, 30, 40, 50 loot tables, however many you got, whatever, and it finds it on the second table, and you fail because it doesn't roll the probability, then this code right now currently will just run the rest of the 50 and check to match all those tags every time. We don't want that. So all we're going to do is literally just after all the ifs, we're going to say break, and then this if, and then break, and then this if, and then break. And it's just like that. And now once this matches, or if it fails, then it'll skip this loot table, it'll kill that, and then it'll just grab another random tag, start the loop all over. So this is how we are going to spawn the items. And then the second thing we're going to do, we'll just take care of it in code before I go into blueprints and do this. We'll just take care of it all at one time. So we are going to come into the inventory component again, and we're going to go into this RPG inventory entry right here. And for these specific ones, instead of blueprint read only, we're going to make blueprint read write on the gameplay tag, on the item name, blueprint read write. And then on the F equipment effect package, we're going to make blueprint read write. And we'll understand why we're going to do this. I promise I will show you, but just for now, trust me on this, we could do this. Oh, and I see a constructor right here, so we'll just call this empty tag right here. Easy clap. So we'll have that. And then now that I have that, we need to come into the item actor. See the item actor and the effect package. It's time we mark this up. We need a U property for this, and we're going to mark it replicated, and then we're going to mark it blueprint read only. So we could do this, and then we're going to come down here and we're going to do rep lifetime. Oops, do rep lifetime of an A item actor, and we want the effect package. We now want this replicated, and then we want to be able to read this in blueprints. And with that, I believe we could just build and get into the editor. All right, so now that we're back in the editor, let's open this up. And we're going to start doing some things. We're going to come into the enemy. And the first thing is we have the primary enemy, but that's it. This is bad practice. In blueprints, especially some of the stuff, you should always make a base parent class. So we're going to make an enemy base, enemy base. And we're going to call this BP enemy base, just like this. And we're going to come into the primary right here, and we're going to open this up, and we'll go into the class settings, and we'll change it to the BP enemy base as the parent class. It shouldn't cause any issues like this because we're not losing any data. It's the same essential parent class. Now, this is going to be up to you if you want to move all of this stuff here, these notifies, etc., to the parent class or not. That is up to you. If you want to use the same kind of bars for every single enemy and you want to do that, go for it. If not, then don't. But what I want to do is come into the enemy base, because we're going to set some default values. What's going to happen is inside the inventory component that we have, we need to, 1, add the equipment stat effects, 2, add the inventory definitions, and 3, add the default item class. So we add those 3 things, and because I do that in the enemy base, then I come to the enemy primary, and inside the inventory component, these default values are already set. So any children class you make, the default values from the parent class are what the child class is going to get. So we're going to set that like that for real. And then in the class defaults, we're going to come into custom values, and in the loot we have loot spawn info and then those 2 tag containers. Well, the loot spawn info is probably going to be the same for everybody, right? We're going to have the same loot spawn info for everybody, but then the loot tags and everything are going to be specific, so we're not going to fill anything in there. So we're going to come into data, and then we have the inventory. We'll come into the inventory because this will be inventory, and we'll have miscellaneous, and this will be data asset. And this is going to be a loot spawn info that will select DA loot spawn info that we can just instantly DA loot spawn info put in there. And then just to make sure, if I come into the class defaults in this one and I come to class custom values, yeah, the loot spawn infos here. Great. So then I have data tables. But here's the thing, loot tag tables. So I need this. We need gameplay tags for loot. And how we're going to do this is, because we have category tags, this is where the power of gameplay tags can come in. If we get very deep and very descriptive with our loot tags, you can really fine tune what kind of loot goes into what kind of enemy. So we're going to just start with a tag, and it's going to be based off of the item tags. So we're just going to open these all up. I want to display all of these we have here. And so how I want to do this is I'm going to make a tag, and it's going to start with loot. And then I want to do it by chance tiers. We're going to do by chance tiers, right? So you can do like small chance, medium chance, large chance, and then 100% chance, and then do tiny chance and minuscule chance for the 0.1% chance item loot, because our loot's going to be not only RNG, but it's also going to be weighted, right? It's also weighted. So I'm going to make loot, and this will be 100 chance. And then we're going to say consumable.health potion. And default tags.I, and I hit enter. And then we'll do add sub tag, and this is mana potion. And we'll enter like that. And then we will make a loot dot 100 chance still. And this is going to be, we want equipment, all of these, left hand, shield, wooden shield. We want all those. And then we can make a sub tag of weapon.small knife. And then equipment out of sub tag, and this is right hand. And then this is mace, broken mace. And then this is add sub tag, and this is sword.bronze sword. And so you can have 100 chance, and then we can make a loot, and we could say low chance. And then we just do the exact same thing, consumable.health potion. And then mana potion. And then low chance equipment dot left hand dot shield dot wooden shield. Weapon, small knife, equipment, right? Dot mace, broken mace, and then sword, bronze sword. I'm just going to do these two categories. That's it. And if you want to do more, you can sit here and do more, and etc. and keep expanding it. But we want to do all these specific individuals for a reason. Okay. So now we have those, and we can come into the data tables. I'll make a new folder because I'll keep these separate, and then this will be loot tables, and we can just come in here and make a miscellaneous data table from a possible loot params. And this will be DT loot, and this is 100 chance, and we'll duplicate this and call this low chance, right? That's what I called it, low chance. Please tell me that's what I called it. Loot, yeah, low chance. Good. So then we'll take this and we'll make the 100 chance the DT loot 100 chance, and then we'll make the low chance the DT loot low chance. We could save that, and then back in the enemy base we have the loot spawn info already, so that's good. And then now we're going to open up both of these, the 100 chance and this chance, and we're going to do this. We'll add a row, and again it has to match, right? So loot dot 100 chance dot consumable dot health potion. The resulting item is going to be the item consumable health potion, and then the 100% chance is just going to be 1 or 2 potions, and the probability to select is 1 because it's 100%, right? Then we could duplicate this, then we could call this mana potion, and it can be the exact same thing except it's just the resulting item is the mana potion instead. And then I can add a row, and we can call this loot dot 100 chance dot equipment dot we start with the left hand dot shield dot wooden shield, like this. And the resulting item is item equipment left hand shield wooden shield, always just 1-to-1. There's 100% chance. We can duplicate this and say this is the weapon dot small knife, And the resulting is the weapon small knife. And then we can just duplicate this, and we can make the right hand dot mace dot broken mace, and the item that it is the right hand mace, broken mace, and we duplicate this, and then we do sword dot bronze sword. Go like, oh shoot, this is low chance. And I just wrote all the 100 chances. I'm gonna rename these. Low chance 1, 100 chance, and then we'll call this 100 chance. And then we'll call this low chance. Oops. And actually that means I'm gonna have to come back into the data tables. Oops, data inventory. I need to come in here because now this is, I need to switch these. 100 chance, low chance. I need to swap those. Yep. Okay, easy. Now we come into the low chance and we just repeat the same thing. Right? Oops. Now this is loot tag or loot dot low chance dot consumable dot health potion. Now we can come into item, and it's still going to be the same resulting item, but instead of 1 to 2, we could give it like 4 to 6 instead. But instead of that, we'll give it like a 0.2 chance to select, so it's pretty low chance. We'll duplicate this, and we'll make it a mana potion, and then the resulting item tag is just mana potion with the same 4 to 6 and 0.2%. And we can add loot dot low chance dot equipment dot left hand dot shield dot wooden shield, and the resulting item is still a wooden shield, still 1, but we'll give it 0.2. We'll just get everything 0.2% chance in this table. And this is weapon dot small knife, and then this is right hand dot mace dot broken mace. Oops, excuse me, I forgot to change this to the small knife, and then duplicate this and say sword dot bronze sword, and then we'll go like this, sword bronze sword. So now we have these low chance and 100% chance ones. All we have to do is come to this primary here, and in this loot category tags, now this is up to you. We come into the loot, and you could easily decide how you want to distribute loot to this thing. Do you want, if I just pick loot 100% chance, then it gives me every possible item that I can pick at the 100% chance that's possible. If I just pick consumables, then it gives me all the consumables. I can get out of here. But I want to do the 100% chance equipment. So it's got a 100% chance to roll any equipment. And then if I come to the specific loot tags, what I could do is 100% chance on the health potion. That'll give me 1 to 2. And then I could do the low chance on the mana potion, which is going to give me 4 to 6. Now that we have these all filled in, there's one thing we need to do in the data tables is let's look at our consumables. So we have these. Now our consumables, this axis guide and this camera don't have collision. So I'm just going to make this also a sphere, right? I'm just going to make this a sphere. So where's the 100 by 100 by 100? There it is. I'm going to make it a sphere so it has collision, so you could check the health potion. And this camera doesn't also doesn't have that. So I'll make this a cube. And I'll do the 100 by 100 by 100 there, easy. So we got that adjusted. At the left hand, look, the wooden shield and the small knife just don't have anything at all. So the mesh for the wooden shield, we could just do the cone, and this is 100 by 100 by 100. And we can make the icon this, and then this we can make the, well, we have the cylinder and the cube already. So I'll make a sphere for this as well. And this is, where's the 100 by 100 by 100? There it is. And then we'll do blueprint bad for the icon like this. So we should have all that. And then actually this is kind of funny. Look, I have the item description here, and then I also have description here. Apparently I did this. So let's just come into this is immediately bothering me now that I noticed it. If I come into the master item definition, sure enough, right here, I'm getting rid of that. I'm not recompiling right now to do that, but I'm just getting rid of that, so the next time I recompile, that line will be gone. But anyway, now we should be able to check. So we're going to hit play, and we're going to take this client, and we're going to find a broken mace, because that's going to give us an ability. And we're going to kill this guy, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, I got a cone, and it's a wooden shield. And let's see, I don't have anything there, but then let's see, everybody can see that it's a wooden shield. And I'm going to pick it up, click that, pick it up, wooden shield, and there we go, health and the ice shards, skill ranks. There we go. So now we have enemies dropping loot, and it's all rolled and everything like that. And so the second thing I want to do is, instead of it just saying shield, I want to be able, everybody to see the stats, like visually see the stats. So how we're going to do this is we are going to come into the item actors, and we're going to do item actor name, and then in the BP item actor base, we're going to do handle this. We are going to separate this right here, cut this down after we get the inventory component on the handle begin interact, and we're going to make a filter macro. So this will be filter category tag again, and our inputs, the first one is going to be an exec, and we'll just call it exec, and the second one is going to be gameplay tag that we will call category or item tag, excuse me, item tag. And then the outputs, right now I just need 2 outputs, and the first one is going to be an exec, and this will be equipment, and the second one is also going to be an exec, and this will just be other for now. Or just do other for now, because if I come off this item tag, I can say matches tag, and the first one I'll check for is the item equipment, and if put a branch here, and if it partially matches item equipment, then it's item equipment. And then I'm going to drag off here, and I'm going to say matches any tags, because if I do matches any tags, this other container, I could just drag off this, and I could say make literal gameplay tag container, and I could put here, and then I could just put multiple categories, right? So if this is a consumable item, then I can, oops, if this is a consumable item, then I can just call this other. But then if you want to add more types of items to say that it's an other, then you can add that container. But I'm looking for specifically equipment items here, because what I want to do is I want to say filter category tag, and that's if is valid, and then we can get the item tag like this, so we can filter the tag. Now if it's an other, then I just want to make the name and set the name like this and just do this, right, if it's an other. But if it's a piece of equipment, then what I want to do now is drag off this and create widget, and I want to create a tooltip, the equipment entry tooltip. And now, because we made these read write, I can make an inventory entry now, and I need the item tag, the item name, and the effect package. Item tags right here, I can just get the effect package now that we made that blueprint read only and replicated, and then we get the name just like we do here. I'll just duplicate this right here to give myself the name, and I'll make that, and then this will satisfy everything that the tooltip equipment entry needs to be able to display all the information. And then so I'm going to promote this to a variable, and this will be equipment tooltip widget, and all I have to do is take the item actor name right here, and I can set widget to the equipment tooltip widget instead, and then I can do the same thing as set visibility to true, and then we're going to call bind item clicked, Find item clicked, because we are going to come into the tooltip entry. Tooltip entry, here we go. And we're going to make a graph, and in the functions, we're going to come right here to on mouse button down. Well, we've done this how many times now? Mouse event is mouse button down, left mouse button. Here we go. What do you think we're going to do? We are going to make a delegate, or excuse me, event dispatcher, and this is tooltip clicked. That's it, and we don't really need to send any information out. We could just call it right here, and then we can return handled. And in this false case, we can return unhandled. Return unhandled like that. So now I have that called tooltip clicked based on the click. So now in the bind item clicked right here, what I could do is say if this item name widget is valid, then we bind to the item name clicked. But what we could do is say if we made the equipment tooltip widget, then the item name widget will not be valid. So we can say if not valid, then we can check this one if this one is valid. So we say if not valid, we'll check this one if this one is valid. And if the equipment tooltip is valid, then we'll assign tooltip clicked, and this is on tooltip clicked, the events, and we'll say that's valid. We'll click this here, and truthfully, we just need to copy this. So we'll just duplicate this, and we'll say we'll pick up the item like this, bind event to the tooltip clicked. And then we'll want to, right here, we'll drag this down real quick, because now when we're unbinding, we need to ask this first is valid before we use this. So we'll ask this is valid, and if this is valid, then we'll unbind that, because if not, then we'll take, again, we'll just do this one, and then is valid here. Now we hook this up, and this is, oh, excuse me, this is only if not valid. We'll hook this up, and then we can set this again, and then unbind all events from tooltip clicked when we are done highlighting it. So now we can do this, and then we'll still pick up the item, and then there we go. Now, because we put the stats into the enemy in the inventory component, because we put the equipment stat effects in there, what's going to happen is when the enemy spawns the loot, the enemy will roll the stats instead of the player. So if I come in here, I should be able to come in here, and I'll take this bronze sword, and we will kill this guy, and we'll see what we get. Okay, I got a sphere. What is this? Oh, just health potion. How many health potions did we get? Do I have any? No, I don't. So I just have one health potion. No, that sucks. Okay, and there we go. I got a sphere, and there we go. So I got a small knife that has health, shield, and critical hit chance at those stats. And then if I check it on the server, it's got the same exact stats, right? For 153, 226, and 5.67. 153 that. And this one 153, 226, 5.67. And then you click it, and now it's in my inventory. 153, 226, 567. And we can equip this and make sure that if I hold shift and apostrophe, that I can see I have equipment, health, shield, crit chance of 155 and that. So here we go, and now you can see everything, and we got some random loot, and that should be it.